Good morning. I'm Mitch Mitchell. I'm Ryan Klumpner, Vice Chair of the San Diego Housing Commission Board of Commissioners. Our chair is stuck in some unfortunate traffic. The time is 9:09 a.m. on January 16th, 2026, and I'm calling to order today's regular meeting of the board. We are meeting in person this morning with commissioners, staff, and members of the public in attendance. We have a quorum with 5 commissioners present. Video of today's meeting is also being streamed online. The link to watch today's meeting is on the Housing Commission's website at www.sdhc.org. To accommodate additional members of the public who may wish to participate in today's meeting, we have set up an overflow room down the hall. The live streaming video of today's meeting will be shown in the overflow room. Speaker slips are available in the overflow room for members of the public who wish to provide comments to the board today. Our staff will bring those speaker slips to me here in the boardroom. At the appropriate time, our staff will also escort speakers from the overflow room to make sure they are able to provide their comments to the board in person today. Members of the public here in the board room or in the overflow room who wish to provide comments to the board will need to complete a speaker slip. In the boardroom, please submit your speaker slip to our Vice President of Communications, Scott Marshall, who is standing at the side of the room. In the overflow room, submit your speaker slip to our communications staff in the room. In a moment, I will be proposing that agenda items 100, 101, 102, and 103 be placed on a consent agenda for today's meeting. Members of the public may provide comments about the items on the consent agenda by submitting a speaker slip for that item before the board considers the consent agenda. To speak in favor of any item on today's agenda, please submit the gold speaker slip. To speak in favor of any item on today's agenda, please submit the gold speaker slip. To speak in opposition to any agenda item, please submit the pink speaker slip. Those who wish to address the board about a topic that is not on the agenda should fill out a white speaker slip. Members of the public will have 3 minutes each to provide their comments about the agenda items or non-agenda public comments. However, if a large number of people wish to provide non-agenda public comments or speak on a single agenda item, comments will be limited to 1 minute each. Collective testimony by those who support or oppose an item shall be limited to no more than 15 minutes total per side. When I call your name, please step to the podium, state your name for the record, and begin making your comments. Now is the time for non-agenda public comments. I don't see no speaker slips. However, no speaker slips have been submitted for non-agenda public comments. Next, I will ask if any commissioners have any comments, and I will trade places with our chair. I got through all the fast-talking part.
I appreciate that very much. Okay, any comments from any of the commissioners? All right, seeing none, then there are no slips.
May I ask Casey to
I was waiting for you to say that,
give her report?
You didn't say it. I'm like, okay.
Good morning, commissioners. I'm here to provide an update on our coordinated shelter intake program. So in the month of December, our coordinated intake program received 2,412 referrals for shelter, of which 208 were able to be accommodated for a 9% completion rate. 56% of the referrals were not completed due to no top or bottom bunk for males. 10% of referrals were not completed due to no top bunk being available for females, and then 9% were not completed due to no beds being available for families. We do have some, as I mentioned in last month's meeting, we are really building our ability to collect and analyze and break down the data, which is really exciting. So over the next couple months, we'll be able to share additional tidbits, which I think you'll find very fascinating, as we have so far. Just some of that. So in December, as I mentioned, 2,412 referrals were received, but we know that only 861 were unique persons. So there were multiple referrals. So that's helpful to know. Although we have seen a 24% increase in total referrals from July to December, which has been a topic of discussion, there's actually only been a 4% increase in the number of unique persons seeking shelter. So that's something. This trend in large part is due to likely referring partners such as street outreach teams and law enforcement making more frequent contacts, and submitting referrals for shelter for largely the same kind of universe of individuals that they're interacting with. In addition, the changes that were implemented with operationalization of the hub has improved in coordination of shelter referral activities through 211, so that folks that call 211, those are being triaged through the hub in response times for individuals requesting shelter. So it's reduced the time for that, so which is helpful. So since the beginning of the year, CSIP has received 14,687 referrals for shelter, of which 1,444 were accommodated for a 10% completion rate. Similar to what we just discussed, 50% were not completed due to no top or bottom for males, 12% were because of no bottom bunk for females, and then 11% were because no family beds available. So when you look at that for unique households, in addition to an analysis of the unique household referrals, we've completed an initial assessment of the number of referrals per unique household. So what it's demonstrating to us is that the total instances in which a household has been referred to shelter since the beginning of the fiscal year. I said this wrong. Sorry, Jonathan. It's really confusing.
He just kept looking down at his notebook. He was trying to find what page you were reading from.
Sorry.
He was like, wait a minute.
So what the data is demonstrating is that the total instances in which a household has been referred to shelter since the beginning of the fiscal year, not the instances in which they were placed. We just want to make sure that it's understood. So this is different from an assessment of how many instances a household is referred to shelter before they're successfully placed. So we're not there yet. We're just telling you since July, how many unique households have been referred in this 6-month period. So as I stated earlier, we received 14,687 referrals this year, which was comprised of 3,829 unique households. So so what that breaks down to is 41% of households are referred just one time. 50% are referred between 2 and 9 times in that 6-month period, and 50% have been referred 2 to 9 times within the last 6 months, and about 9%, so the remaining folks, have been 10 plus times. And that's really the subject of our deeper analysis to understand why some folks are being referred so many times without success in getting into shelter. And it will also be the basis for us to help determine how we could set a prioritization system possibly. So we actually are starting an internal working group to start looking at that data more to prepare some recommendations to move towards the shelter prioritization. So obviously, I'll provide more updates in the coming months. So I can also give a quick update on inclement weather.
I was just about to ask.
So in December, we activated 5 times, mostly due to rain, but there was a couple instances due to temperature. We did serve 466 individuals. Again, it could be duplicative, though, since they may have attended more than one time. Our average utilization at this time is 58%. So we're not, which is typical. Usually don't start seeing fuller utilizations till the rainier months, so January. Forward, most folks are hearing about inclement weather by word of mouth still, 67%. And then only 12% are getting referred through like 211, outreach, or the PD.
One follow-up question. I know that we had previously talked about the trends with family referrals and some of the transitions that have been underway. Has there been any significant change with the number of families seeking shelter and their success rate in being placed?
I mean, it's consistent. I mean, the way that 10% breaks down, it's in the last 6 months, there's been 1,409 requests for family beds that have gone unmet. So it's been pretty consistent, the number we're receiving each month. So.
And then can you remind me, do we still have new shelter options coming online for them, or is everything online?
No,
Yeah.
Rachel's, it's on time, actually. I shouldn't say that out loud because it'll probably change, but right now we're on target for the end of March, early April, and that would add 100 and...
Up to 200. There's a full capacity.
Yeah, it's up to 200 beds, but I think 100, yeah, about 50% are for families, so...
Got it. Okay.
That should help tremendously.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Sometimes it's hard to keep track of. Did we talk about Rachel's promise 4 months ago or a year ago?
Trust me, I know. I know.
All right. Casey, great statistics. I want to just say that I really appreciate you diving in. And I think the thing that I want to make sure everybody leaves with the understanding is 3,829 unique out of the 14,000. Right? Because I think the concern that we all have and have talked about and focused on is with all the changes happening in funding and the government impacts and the economy slowing down and unemployment being what it is and rents increasing, the number of people who are unique in asking for shelter is always an important number to see how we're trending and how fast it's happening. Because I think and I appreciate that because when you just give the broader number of 14,000 referrals, it leads people to believe that it's that 14,000 new people asking for shelter. That's not there. So that's good. That's a good number. I also appreciate the 41% referred one time, that number. So I think going forward, I think this is going to be really important for us to monitor that unique number. And then what the family number is, as Vice Chair Klempner said, that's also one of those things that has been a concern we're going to see more families asking for support. And you said that number, that individual number is.
On average, it's about 10%.
10%?
A month, and it's been consistent over the last 6 months.
And
it's higher
sorry,
than previous
is that by referral or by unique individual? Because I know with families it gets even more complex.
That's by referrals. So that's, again, it's part of that subset that we're going to be looking at closer.
And when we're talking about families, I assume that means we don't know the number of times, but we do know that behind each of those referrals is multiple individuals.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't track the data on the household composition, right? No.
Okay.
We are just tracking the head of household.
Okay.
Yeah.
So repeat your last statement, 10% a month, and that's up. What'd you say?
I don't have the previous year's data in front of me, but I know we've been talking about it every month since July because it came up on the radar.
Sure.
Which it normally doesn't for the top 3 reasons that referrals weren't completed.
Yeah, because they needed a family space.
Right. Exactly.
Okay. All right. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I think that's important to note, and as we watch over the course of the next 11 months, and the federal impacts really start to settle in. These are going to be important notes to remind us of is the unique number and then the family number in particular. So,
Good. One more thing, and I strongly suspect that you and Jonathan are already headed there with this, but I'm hoping that with this granular data, one of the conclusions that we can get when the analysis is done is what the correlation is between number of referrals and successful placement or other outcomes. So when you said how many is it, roughly 10% had more, or was it 9% had more than 10 referrals? Yes. I think we're all very curious what the outcome is for people who have had 10 plus referrals versus the people who are somewhere down from that, or the people who have only one referral, because I know that from conversations with our frontline outreach workers, this is something they've been talking about for a very long time, is kind of what the cumulative effect of the outreach is when we don't have the back end for the outreach to be successful. And so this is, I think, going to be a very important and kind of the first look that I'm aware of about how those two things are interacting. Yeah. So I assume that you're both headed there and
discussing.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Can I ask too, so when we have someone that's been referred 10 times, right, for shelter, when we think about folks that are successfully referred and then never show up, Is that part of that 10, or is that they're referred and there was never a bunk in the first place?
The former.
The former, so they were referred but never showed up. Okay, so so we may have a subset of the population that when engaging with outreach says yes, the placement is quote unquote made in the system, but they never show up at the shelter.
And that's a fascinating detail. Thank you, Lisa. And then I guess my follow-up to that would be, so when they don't show up, is that placement then reallocated, or is that held and that's what our vacancy numbers are? It's reallocated. Interesting. Okay. Got it.
So they basically have by the...
Generally, I think it's 2 o'clock. They're told to show up for their intake, and then it gives an opportunity for intake to still reach out to somebody if they didn't show up by 2.
So, got it. So,
Most of our referrals come in before 9 a.m.
so we don't know how many people are in that category of like a no-show, but this is giving us some insight. And then
We have the ability. We have that data.
Okay.
We do have that data.
do we have data on who's making the referrals? I'm curious if this is partly a product of how people are dealing with law enforcement encounters, knowing that they have to say yes and then disappearing before they get there if that's not where they want to be.
We have all that data. It's just, was it last year that we built out all this capacity, and we've been, working on how we clean the data, how we do it. So it's very exciting, right?
Okay.
Yes, but we do have all that data.
That'll be so helpful, I think, for future policy conversations. Yeah.
So what I was going to say is, I think as the team gets a little closer to these drill downs, this is probably going to be something that just becomes an informational report. So we have like a full sort of snapshot picture in
We've
time.
already been planning.
They're already working on it. Of course they are.
We're thinking like April, May.
They'll be back.
Well, I think it's going to be important because, again, what we were all concerned about was the number of families and how we were going to, and the number of family spaces. It's good to hear that Rachel's is moving along. Yeah. And as we watch that percentage, that number either move up or stay flat, that'll give us an indicator of what we need to focus on with regard to our request. I think these days in this space, there's so much controversy over the money being spent on homelessness because the general public groups it all together. The data allows us to break it down and be more effective in both our conversation, but also in our request. So if we know we need more family spaces because the number's moving up, that's one thing. The unique number just tells us if things are getting worse. As you've heard me say before, the food bank lines are a great barometer of the economy. As the food bank lines get longer, that means that more people are struggling, and they've said, this is my backup, and I'm going to take advantage of it. And so I always say that there's no better sign of the economy than a 7-Eleven or Arco in the morning, construction workers are in buying, or a food bank line if the lines are getting longer and the number of seniors, for example, are growing. So this data is going to be very important as we really try and wrap our arms around the conversation we had last month about we're trying to protect and preserve, protect and keep 1,700 families housed. But the number of families that come to us saying we need support, and I thought it was interesting as Vice Chair Clemmer said that some people don't show up and there might be a variety of reasons. They don't like where they've been sent, or they've changed their mind, they're going to go stay with family or relatives, but this will all be incredibly important. So I would close this portion of it by saying I want to say thanks on the inclement weather. I called Lisa when the storm happened, and I think one of the things we've talked about is just being a better support voice. When we know the weather's coming in, we know when the 3 and 5 day storms are blowing in, and so the way you were activating the shelters, great. Kudos. The flood at Alpha. At some point, hopefully that situation will be resolved so it doesn't flood every time there's a big storm, because it is a disruption. And but I want to give kudos to you and Jonathan and Lisa for how the team responded to try and take care of everybody that was impacted by that storm. And then the second thing is on the word of mouth comment you made. It's kind of ridiculous in this day and age that word of mouth is still how we talk about the only real opportunity for inclement weather openings. And I've said this before at the dais that the city could help us. And my good friend Molly, I'm going to call her after this, because the Civic Center, the marquee, there's ways to do this better. And we are going to see more severe weather. It's just what's happening. It's just a byproduct. So longer rainstorms, longer cold spells. If you're going to open the shelter, making sure most people know about it is important, because what stood out in your number, Casey, is that the average usage is 58%. And yes, when it rains longer periods, everybody wants shelter. But it's also cold, right? And so there has to be a better way, and hopefully we'll figure out something. I would love to work with MTS. They have electronic boards that could also be used as messaging. And you know, if Sharon hears about this, yes, you know, either I or Mr. C will call her. So, okay, thank you. All right, now we'll move on to the finished commissioner comments. I want to make one change. We're going to pull item 100 from the consent agenda, for a little some comments from Commissioner Cushman. All right, Lisa, the floor is yours.
All right. Good morning, Commissioners. We wanted to provide you an update to you this morning about what we're hearing out of Washington about the federal budget. The current continuing resolution will expire January 30th. There's been some movement on appropriations bills for agencies such as the Departments of Commerce, Justice, State, Interior, and the Environmental Protection Agency. However, the Transportation, Housing, and Urban Development Appropriations Bill has not yet passed. We understand that it is near completion and is expected to be combined with appropriations bills for defense, labor and health, and human services. We're also expecting the bill to provide funding at levels somewhere between the versions that had been proposed in the House and the Senate, respectively, which we have talked about before. As I previously shared, the level of funding included in the appropriations bill represents a cut in our budget and does not adequately cover the cost of the existing programs that serve our families. This, I know, is no surprise, as we have had to propose changes to the voucher program and implement cost containment strategies across the agency to ensure that we have the resources we need to support all of the families we serve. The House Appropriations Committee Chair and Ranking Member have expressed confidence that all appropriations bills will be passed by January 30th. We will let you know when we have more information about how that final appropriations bill will impact our budget and our programs. Even when we do have an approval, let's assume we have that on January 30th, it may take several months for HUD to go through what their allocation is and go through a process of actually notifying PHAs directly. So I anticipate it still being several months away before we know what our budget is for this year. At the state level, Governor Gavin Newsom released his budget proposal on January 9th. The governor's office is proposing a $349 billion budget with a projected $2.9 billion shortfall. The governor's proposal includes $500 million for a seventh round of homelessness housing assistance and prevention program funding, or HAP funding. The good news is this is an increase from last year's budget of $0, but it is a reduction from the $1 billion budgeted for HAP in fiscal years prior to last year. The administration also continues to emphasize the implementation of the new California Housing and Homelessness Agency, or CHHA. Through this restructuring, the administration proposes statutory changes to streamline affordable housing programs with existing financing tools such as low-income housing tax credits, or LIHTC, and private activity bonds. I was invited by Secretary Moss of the Business Consumer Services and Housing Agency, who will eventually take over CHHA, to participate in a small working group of leaders across the housing industry to ensure the needs of public housing authorities are taken into consideration as the structure of the new agency is developed. It is an honor to be part of that and to really see that Secretary Moss is taking PHA needs and experience into consideration as that new agency is developed. We will be closely monitoring state budget activity as well as the implementation of the new California Housing and Homelessness Agency in the coming months and engaging with state lawmakers through the process to make sure our priorities are heard. In November, we published our fiscal year 2025 annual report online. In our annual report, we have the privilege of sharing the stories of many of the families that we serve. They include stories of resilience, determination, aspiration, and accomplishments, and they are truly inspiring. We also highlight a variety of data about our programs and graphics in this report. While we believe in data-driven decisions, we never lose sight of the personal stories that the numbers represent. The Housing Commission has a positive impact on thousands of families in the city of San Diego through our many housing assistance programs. We are grateful to this board for your leadership, guidance, and support for what we accomplished last fiscal year and as we navigate challenging times this year and in the years to come. I am especially grateful to the many dedicated staff that make all of these accomplishments possible. If you have not already seen it, I encourage you and the public to take some time to look through the pages of the report. It is on our website at www.sdhc.org. And thank you to our communications team who did a fantastic job producing the report each year and has done so this year as well, entirely in-house. Finally, this morning, the Office of the City Clerk has asked us to share that they are hosting community listening sessions. These sessions are to help community members learn how to participate in City Council meetings and to share feedback on how they want to engage with city government. Participation in City Council meetings also applies to the Housing Authority meetings because the City Council serves as the Housing Authority. Previous sessions have been held in Logan Heights and San Ysidro, listening sessions. The next event is Tuesday, January 20th at the Pacific Highlands Ranch Library. It will start at 5:30 p.m. Members of the community can also join on Zoom with a link at sandiego.gov/listening. The city clerk also has an online survey option to provide feedback. For more details and to participate in the survey, community members can visit sandiego.gov/cityclerk. And that concludes my short report this morning. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lisa. A lot in that report, even though it was short, especially as it relates to the federal budgets and the state budgets. So, all right, we will now move on to the minutes on the agenda. So the next up is the approval of the December 11th, 2025 special meeting of the board. No speaker slips have been submitted regarding the minutes. So any commissioner changes or comments? Or if not, I will entertain a motion in a second. Motion by Commissioner Jackson. Second by Vice Chair Klumpner. Any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. No abstentions, no nays, so it passes unanimously. And we will now move on to the consent agenda. And as I mentioned, we're going to pull item 100, but everything, item 101, item 102, and item 103 will be up for approval on the consent agenda. No speaker slips have been submitted for any of those items. So this concludes the public comment period for these items. Commissioners, any comments? Or I will entertain a motion on the consent agenda in a second.
So moved by Melinda.
Commissioner Vasquez? You can call me Melinda. That's what you should say. We have a motion by Commissioner Vasquez. The Vice Chair has offered a second. Any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. No abstentions, no noes. Motion carries unanimously, and we will move to, how do you want to handle item 100?
What I'm looking for is a basic understanding as we move from 200,000 times 2 to 450,000 times 2. So from 400,000 to 900,000. I just like to understand, and I told Josh earlier, just like to understand that's a lot of folks we're moving, and I just wanted to get a bigger picture understanding. Yeah, I read the item, I understand the item. I just like to get a.
We had a good conversation with Colin. Are you or Josh, one of the two of you want to go out to the mic and answer that question? It did stand out, Mr. C. We had this conversation, so I think you'll appreciate the explanation. Unless, of course, they say something that's completely different than what they told us.
So do you want to hear our full presentation as well? Or
no, I just give the explanation like you did the other day about sure. Why the significant increase.
Understood. Thank you. So we have a number of projects that are under construction right now, and we're moving. And Josh can give us the exact numbers of how many people we're moving out of those units. And so what we're finding is that none of these properties. We're not asking for any additional funding. These are all funds that we've contemplated in our Home Key project that you'll hear later today. Or our properties that we're renovating to comply with certain state mandates. So what we want to avoid is a situation where we have a construction project in the middle of construction, and for some reason there aren't enough funds to actually move people in and out. So this is not that we're going to spend $450,000 on both contracts. This gives us the flexibility to and for things we can't necessarily anticipate as we move people in and out. And this will span this fiscal year and next fiscal year. So these are projects we're doing now and for next year as well. So it's just to give us flexibility because we don't need in the middle of a construction project and run out of contract capacity for relocation. So it's more for us doing some forward planning and trying to make sure we can be nimble and move these projects through quickly.
So put a little more meat on the bone. Are we talking about 300 families, 300 individuals, 600?
Yeah.
How many people are we talking about relocating?
Specifically on the Starling project that you'll hear later today, one of the relocation agents is engaged with 37 households that are in the facility right now, and that's across permanent and temporary relocation needs for the project. So there are a handful of households that do not qualify to stay. The relocation agent will be working with them to establish their relocation rights and benefits. And then there are those that are allowed to stay that will need to be temporarily relocated during construction. So that's 37 on a proposed project that is not yet in the commission portfolio. The other efforts in the commission portfolio span approximately 400 units. So we have 144 units at Kearney Vista for SB 721 repairs for balconies and walkways. And so you're talking about a critical life safety egress component that needs to be removed, reconstructed, and the households cannot stay in their units while that is there. And for a PSH property where the tenants tend to have a little bit higher need, the time and resources required for the relocation agent to facilitate movers and relocate them on site are a little bit more hand-holding. So we're looking at, with Starling and that particular effort, if we need the full gamut of their services, it's approximately $2,000 per household. The other efforts that we're talking about here are a similar effort at the Hillcrest Inn property, so 45 units, much smaller property, anticipating that that can mostly be done with just sort of a baseline level of required noticing and having the relocation agent on standby in case we do need to relocate households, but we're not anticipating that they actually have to relocate, but we need that capacity there in case we do. Similar thing for Valley Vista, where the elevators are in need of repair. And so if we're taking elevators offline in a PCH property with tenants that have a higher level of need, same level of sort of care and service that's required there. So
we're talking about probably closer to 500.
In total.
And where do we relocate them to? Other properties that we own, or?
So in the case of Starling, we're relocating them to extended stay hotels for the duration of construction. In the case of Kearney Vista, we have a relocation plan where we're actually relying on a quad of vacant units. And so we can shuffle households on site through there, but the duration of construction is approximately a week. We need to have movers on hand to be able to help facilitate moving required bits of furniture and personal items, et cetera, and as well as just requiring the commission's required noticing to protect our legal interests, et cetera, and advocate for the tenants. So that they really act more as sort of they're covering for us in terms of our legal obligations for relocation. But in the case of those PSH properties in particular, they're also a bit of an advocate, and they are intermediary between the households to make sure that they're getting what they need and they're not too disturbed in terms of the efforts that are there.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, and just one follow-up, Colin, you mentioned something I wanted to highlight, which is that this is related to the contract approval, but in terms of the budget, each of these examples you gave, the cost that we're talking about with the relocation was already anticipated within those budgets. Yeah. So this is a change in the limit of the contracts that we have approved, but it's not a change in the budgets of any of the sites, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Money. Yeah, it's the money's in that.
There's no additional budget
money,
request. Yeah. It's just contract capacity.
Yeah. Okay. So I think now we pull it from the consent agenda. We would have to vote to approve this item.
I move acceptance of the item.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Cushman, second by Commissioner Hubbard. Any further comments? All right, seeing none. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
No abstentions, no opposed. So the motion carries. Thank you very much for that explanation.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay, next we will move to item 104. This is the item to accept and expend funds for the proposed acquisition and upgrades of the property at 7798 Starling Drive. And Colin, you're going to stay there, and Buddy, you're going to come up. And this is kind of normal and customary. We've been through this a few times, but it's nice to see it happening once again. So with that, the presentation and the floor is yours.
Good morning. Thank you, Chair Mitchell and Commissioners. The proposed acquisition and upgrades we are presenting today for the Starling Drive property are the next steps in a series of successful collaborations over the past 6 years with state and local funding. Since the launch of the California Department of Housing and Community Development's Home Key Initiative in 2020 and the launch of Home Key Plus last year, more than $137 million has been awarded to Housing Commission collaborations. These funds have supported the creation of 688 new affordable housing units with supportive services for people experiencing homelessness in the city of San Diego. Those totals also include the Starling Drive project before you today. These projects provide critical housing solutions for San Diegans experiencing homelessness or at risk of homelessness, including veterans, individuals experiencing chronic homelessness, transition-age youth, and other vulnerable populations. In addition to state funding, the City of San Diego contributed approximately $59.4 million, and the County of San Diego has contributed approximately $53.8 million toward these efforts, for a combined total of nearly $113 million. The Housing Commission has provided $8.6 million in moving to work funds, as well as 648 project-based housing vouchers to help individuals at these properties pay their rent. When we consider the per-unit contributions by lenders for these affordable units, HCD has contributed approximately $200,000 per unit, the city and county combined $165 per unit, and the Housing Commission $12,500 per unit. Additionally, Housing Commission staff have been responsible for the submission of funding applications to the state, coordinating relocation, overseeing closing calls, managing the permitting and construction process, as well as the day-to-day property management of many of these home key developments. If the board approves the actions before you today, the Housing Commission will own and operate 635 out of 688 affordable units created to date through these efforts. The substantial investments by the state, county, city, and Housing Commission have created rental homes for hundreds of unhoused San Diegans. I want to share that important context with you as we begin our presentation today about the Starling project. With that, I'll turn it over to Buddy.
So on April 25th of this year, the board approved the execution of the purchase and sales agreement, a due diligence budget, and submission of the Housing and Community Development HCD Home Key Plus application for the property located at 7798 Starling Drive, referred to as Starling Place. On September 2nd, the due diligence period expired, and staff removed contingencies on the sale, subject to seller closing conditions. So this is a good place to stop for a minute and address what we discovered during the due diligence. So the property had permission to operate as a transient hotel. We require that it operate as a long-term stay hotel. You know, of the 25 one-bedroom units physically present, 17 were unpermitted and not reflected in the approved plans. So seller was conditioned through an amendment to the purchase and sales agreement to change the approved use to a long-term stay and to obtain the necessary permits to make any required upgrades to the units prior to close of escrow. If seller defaulted, the Housing Commission could terminate the deal, recover all deposits, and be compensated by the seller for verified third-party costs incurred during due diligence. So the seller has completed this work at this point in time, and all the work necessary to satisfy the conditions above. So the acquisition closing date is subject to the release of the HCD funds. The current estimate for close of escrow is late February of this year. On September 12th of 2005, the board voted 6-0 to authorize a pre-development budget for Starling Place in the amount not to exceed $617,504.40. On November 7th, 2025, the Housing Commission Board voted 5-0 to approve a revised resolution authorizing the San Diego Housing Commission to apply for state Home Key Program grant funds, specifying that the Starling Drive property is existing housing as defined by regulations contained in the ordinance above. Next slide. State of California has reserved home key capital funds in the amount of $26,490,313 and $5,921,431 in operating funds for the Starling Place project. The Home Key Plus program requires the following performance measures. So all home key funds need to be spent within 17 months of the award. All construction and rehabilitation must be completed within 14 months of the award letter. Full occupancy must be achieved by 17 months from the date of the award letter. The proposed development proposed development will consist of 20 units dedicated to individuals experiencing chronic homelessness, 20 units dedicated to individuals at risk of experiencing homelessness, and 40 units dedicated to veterans experiencing homelessness. One unit will be reserved for a household with an income at 50% AMI, and one unit will be reserved, one unrestricted unit will be reserved as a manager's unit. As a note, 50% AMI equates to approximately $57,900 in annual income for a single person, and a rental rate of about $1,448 per month. Next slide. Yeah, okay. In addition to the home key funding, the following committed sources make up the required funding. San Diego Housing Commission has committed 40 federal Veterans Affairs Supportive Housing, or VASH, project-based vouchers. The City of San Diego has committed $12,134,986 in CDBG funds. So this is made up of the original commitment of $11,541,893, increased by a remaining amount of CDBG funds from an earlier NOFA that was unused in the amount of $593,093. The County of San Diego has contributed a capital in the form of residual receipts loan in the amount of $7 million. County has also granted a operating match of $3,360,000. Funds for social services will be managed by the county and provided to BHA eligible tenants. So as you may recall, the property is located at 7798 Starling Drive. It is located within Council District 7 in Serra Mesa. It is a 3-story building, which is elevator served. There are 64 parking spaces, 4 accessible per the American with Disabilities Act. The lot measures approximately 0.95 acres, just under an acre, and the building measures approximately 40,083 square feet. Once in escrow, staff and his consultants performed all the due diligence activities outlined on this slide. This slide illustrates the sources and uses for the project. Once operational, tenants in the Starling Place will be offered access to the services highlighted on this slide. So staff recommends that the Housing Commission take the actions highlighted on the following slides. And this concludes our presentation. We're happy to answer any questions you have.
All right. Thank you very much for the presentation. We do not have any speaker slips on this item, so we will go straight to Commissioner questions or comments. Commissioner Vasquez.
Thank you. I'm excited about this project. We definitely need more affordable housing units. I apologize if I didn't if I missed this somehow, but how do you determine, my question is, how do you determine who fits into the categories of 1 and 2, which I believe were people that were in jeopardy of extreme homelessness or in risk of, or in extreme homelessness or at risk for, yes, exactly.
So that'll all be handled through the coordinated entry system, and so that the county will be really shepherding that process.
So it's very similar to what we do now with our other projects. So the chronic homelessness comes through the coordinated entry system, so that referral comes that way. They are matched with BHS. So behavioral health matches the coordinated entry system with their data system to identify families that they serve that are chronically homeless, and the same thing for at-risk. Yeah.
Commissioner Cushman.
I'm good. Oh.
Quick follow-up. I'm so glad that the issues with the permitting and entitlement got resolved favorably. That I was a little bit worried at our last update. I am curious with regard to the 17 units, I believe, that were not permitted. Were any changes, were any improvements needed, do we know, or was it just a paper permitting issue that had to be rectified?
Yeah, there was some minor work done. There was it really had to do with ventilation between the sleeping quarters and the living quarters, and so it was ventilation. It was alarm system for fire and smoke, but very minor upgrades. Yeah.
Great. I assume that's part of how it was able to be done in short order, and it's good to hear that the ventilation and alarm systems were done at the seller's expense.
Yeah, I have to say, it was a great example of cooperation between us and DSD. It flew through, and it was, everyone was paddling in the same direction, which was great.
I can't think of a higher priority permit to have sail through, so that's great to hear.
Yeah.
Well, crisis creates urgency, and that's both good and bad. Unfortunately, so should always move at as swift a pace as possible, and possible in these situations. Right? Any further comments, questions? I just would end with, again, this is the last of the home key conversations we'll be having. I want to commend the team for taking advantage of this situation. City of San Diego, the only city in the county, and we partnered with the county on a couple of projects. And I think that at some point, Lisa, it'd be great. I think we should probably do an overview as part of a report on the sum total of home key and how it's impacting 688 units. But again, great work with the team on this one to take advantage of the opportunity. And so, with no further comments or questions, I will entertain a motion. Motion by Commissioner Klempler, Vice Chair Klempler, second by Commissioner Vasquez. Seeing no further comments, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? No abstentions. The motion carries unanimously. And once again, Colin, buddy, thank you very much, and kudos to the team. All right. We move over to item 105. This is an informational workshop about the fiscal year 2027 Moving to Work annual plan. Deborah, I see you already know what's going to happen here. So we will take public comments after the staff presentation. Senior Vice President Deborah Fisher-Falk and Nancy Saw, our Moving to Work and Community Engagement Director, will present this item, and the floor is yours. You can begin when ready.
Well, good morning, Chair Mitchell and Commissioners. Nancy Saw and I will be presenting our proposed Moving to Work plan for the fiscal year period that covers July 1st, 2026 through June 30th, 2027. As an MTW agency, we're required to submit a plan every year to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD, that includes any proposed new activities or updates on existing ones. There is no board action required at this time. However, we'll come back to the board with a final recommendation for your approval before submitting our plan to HUD. Excellent. As you know, the Housing Commission is one of the 39 original MTW agencies. Now there's a total of 138 agencies with that status, either under the original agreement or as an expansion agency. This MTW designation gives us the flexibility to design innovative, cost-effective strategies better suited to meet our local needs. And there are 3 statutory objectives associated with MTW activities that include reducing costs by increasing efficiency in federal expenditures, helping families to become economically self-sufficient, and improve housing choices for families. And now Nancy will walk you through our proposed initiative and the next steps.
For the fiscal year 2027 MTW annual plan, we are reproposing an existing MTW activity. The MTW activity, called Occupancy Term for Project-Based Voucher, or PBV tenants, utilizes our MTW flexibility to require a project-based voucher tenant to complete 2 years of occupancy to be eligible to request for a tenant-based voucher. HUD regulations currently require 1 year of occupancy before a project-based voucher resident can request for a tenant-based voucher. If a tenant-based voucher is not available at the time, the project-based voucher tenants are placed on a waiting list to convert from a project-based voucher to a tenant-based voucher. We are reproposing this activity through this MTW plan to no longer provide the opportunity for MTW project-based voucher households to convert to a tenant-based voucher and to close and end the waiting list to convert from a project-based voucher to a tenant-based voucher. Project-based voucher tenants will remain stably housed in their units, and if they are on the project-based to tenant-based waiting list, they will be transferred to our general Section 8 waiting list. These proposed updates will not have any impact on MTW project-based voucher households that continue to live in the rental home that qualifies them to receive the project-based vouchers to help pay their rent. The Housing Commission is not currently selecting families from our Section 8 waiting list to receive rental assistance due to insufficient funding. When funding permits and we are able to pull families from the waiting list, this activity update will allow us to select new families on the Section 8 waiting list who are not already receiving rental assistance from the Housing Commission, while current project-based voucher tenants remain stably housed. As part of the MTW annual plan process, the Housing Commission is required to make the draft plan available for public comment. The draft plan is currently available for public comment beginning December 29 and will end on January 30th. The draft plan is available on our website for members of the public to review and provide comments. As part of our outreach efforts, we notify households who may be impacted by the activities in this year's plan and engage the Board of Commissioners in a workshop to request comments and feedback on our MTW initiatives submitted to HUD. Any public comments that we receive will be taken into consideration as the plan is finalized and presented to the board at next month's meeting. And this concludes our presentation. We're available for any questions or comments you may have.
Thank you very much. All right. Commissioners, any comments, questions, concerns?
I technically missed part of your presentation, but I have been up to speed on it. So I did. My only, comment here is thank you for thinking through the ramifications of, down to details that I think that the commissioners are not even aware of. These types of transfer opportunities that were in the project-based vouchers. And now that we are in a world where we are not drawing from the wait list and we are underfunded and we are increasing the share of income that that residents are going to have to pay to keep the system afloat, there are all these little things that have to be worked out to make it as equitable and have the smallest impact possible. And I think this is one of those changes. And I'm, optimistically, thank you for including at the end that, if more funding becomes available and the situation changes, then we know what we're going to do next. But it is very depressing that this has to go in the general category of actions that we're having to take of making the types of benefits and the levels of assistance and the opportunities shallower for our recipients. And it is important for us to do that across the board, because in a world where we are not pulling from that wait list, we really need to think about the people who are waiting on that wait list and need the shortest amount of time. And they need to take some level of priority over people who are thankfully stably housed in an income restricted unit that they qualify for. So we're just having to do a lot of triaging, which is depressing. I think we would rather be doing more positive innovating about how we can actually reach more people with more effective levels of assistance. But I'm so glad that, given the situation that we're in, that we're going about it in as thoughtful a manner as possible and setting ourselves up to continue to support the people that we're supporting and hopefully be able to put some of these things back in place in the future. So thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to get a little bit of clarification more in the difference between the project-based vouchers and the tenant-based vouchers. There's a lot of time people be watching the video and they don't know the difference. We might know it, but they don't. So maybe we could delve a little bit deeper and to give them a little bit more explanation.
Of course. A tenant-based voucher is rental assistance that's tied to the tenant, so they can take that voucher with them and choose a unit that's available on the market. Project-based vouchers are tied to a specific unit. So if they leave that unit, they can't take the voucher with them.
Right? Nice answer. Any further comments? All right, seeing none. This is an informational report, so no motion is necessary, but thank you very much, and I concur with everything Vice Chair said. So, all right. All right. Next up is item 106, and this also is informational about the homelessness system coordination and navigation. And was as Megan, Burt, and Josh come to the mic to the table to present, I would say that Commissioner Vasquez, you asked a question about the intake and the coordinated intake. I do think it's confusing, and I don't think that anybody has any real understanding of it. I listen to Lisa, because she understands it. But aside from that, other than the 4 or 5 people in this room that can maybe give us could do an informational workshop on it, I think the general public's confused on it. I know I've had this conversation with Tamara Kohler, because she tries to explain to me why something can't happen, and I don't understand it. But at least it's something to think about is at a future meeting as a workshop on just the coordinated intake. Because I don't think coordinated entry system, because it's not as simple as you show up, you get in. Right, yeah, right, so. All right. And with that, Megan, please begin when you're ready.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Megan Bird. I'm the Director of Homelessness Housing Innovations Operations, and joining me today is Josh Coyne, Chief of Staff with Downtown San Diego Partnership. This morning, we'll be presenting a workshop on the coordination and navigation of services for individuals experiencing homelessness in the city of San Diego, focusing on the Homelessness Response Center, now referred to as the Hub. Two components that have emerged in recent years as essential pieces of the homelessness response system are the coordination of services within the system and helping people navigate through the system on their journey from homelessness to housing. The Hub continues efforts from recent years to streamline and centralize the coordination and navigation of services for unhoused San Diegans, while also updating the model to improve access and effectively serve them in its new location. The Hub began operating on July 16, 2025 at the San Diego Central Library, with the Downtown San Diego Partnership as the lead service provider. The City of San Diego funds the Hub. The Housing Commission administers the contract with the Downtown San Diego Partnership to operate the program. Before delving into how our system is adapting to current needs, we will provide a summary of the origin of system navigation services in the city. In December 2019, the city opened the Housing Navigation Center at 1401 Imperial Avenue to increase resources within the city's homelessness crisis response system. The program coordinated multiple partners at a single site, providing enhanced access to a variety of supportive services and housing navigation. However, the COVID-19 pandemic required the program to drastically reduce services. In October 2020, the Housing Commission Board approved a shift in the program service model to build upon the successes and lessons learned through Operation Shelter to Home, the region's response to mitigating COVID-19 among people experiencing homelessness. During Operation Shelter to Home, a dedicated housing navigation team was established with a clear focus on these core components: prioritizing housing placements for individuals staying in shelters in order to create flow-through in the shelter system, using referral data from HMIS across all Housing Commission administered programs to identify individuals who are matched to a permanent housing resource but had not yet moved in, to proactively engage with matched individuals to better understand the specific barriers delaying their exit to housing, identifying and addressing system-level barriers that slow down housing placements, including taking inventory of underutilized housing resources to support coordination of placements, providing one-on-one housing navigation support, not only to shelter residents, but also to service providers to accelerate exits to permanent housing, and partnering with co-located supportive services providers to streamline access to housing and improve coordination. By focusing on these core components, the Housing Navigation Team was able to support effective, timely transitions into permanent housing programs and reducing households' time in homelessness. Operation Shelter to Home concluded in April 2021, and the following month, in May 2021, the Homelessness Response Center opened with the Housing Commission as the operator and administrator. People Assisting the Homeless, or PATH, maintained the strategies developed during OSTH to provide system navigation and related services within the program through a contract with the Housing Commission. The Homelessness Response Center enhanced the program to drive the strategic development and implementation of a streamlined, coordinated, client-centric city homelessness crisis response system. The Housing Commission leveraged its subject matter expertise, existing Housing First San Diego programs, and strong partnerships to achieve this broad vision for the Homelessness Response Center. The Housing Commission directly operated the Homelessness Response Center with support services from PATH from May 2021 through June 2025. The main components of the Homelessness Response Center included system navigation, on-site supportive services, system coordination, and the Coordinated Shelter Intake Program. First, we will discuss the system navigation services component. On average, the Homelessness Response Center had 18,394 visits per year, or 1,533 visits per month. Visits represent how many times a person walked through the front door requesting services, and many individuals, particularly those seeking a shelter referral, may have visited multiple times. The program's objective was to centralize and streamline access to a spectrum of housing-related services to San Diegans experiencing homelessness. The Homelessness Response Center offered client-centered system navigation services to individuals throughout all stages of their pathway toward attaining housing. As the lead on-site service provider, PATH offered system navigation and related services to identify and meet the needs of individuals experiencing homelessness. The goal of system navigation was to assist 400 individuals annually who were not already connected to services and to exit at least 26% of those individuals to housing. The chart on this slide demonstrates that these goals were exceeded each operating year, with a slight dip only showing during the year the program ramped down. System navigation included housing-focused case management to assist with completing steps needed along the client's pathway from homelessness to housing stability, including obtaining and completing documents for housing applications or making appointments to view apartments. Related services offered by PATH included providing basic needs services such as hygiene supplies, inclement weather supplies, clothing, bus passes, referrals to shelter resources, and referrals to other local services not offered on site. As needs were identified, the program increased staffing and shifted resources by adding a triage component to the initial interaction with clients to better meet clients' needs, regardless of whether they were housing related. The most requested resource was for shelter placement. Out of all of the referring partners to the Coordinated Shelter Intake Program, or CSIP, the Homelessness Response Center referred the largest number of individuals each day. Another key component was centralizing community service providers under one roof, which streamlined access to critical services. The on-site service providers included the County of San Diego Health and Human Services Agency, U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs, Downtown San Diego Partnership, Dreams for Change, Home Start, National Alliance on Mental Illness, or NAMI, and Veterans Village of San Diego. Our partners provided essential services like public health education, public benefits, documents such as photo ID, SSI and SSDI advocacy, case management resources, and referrals to basic needs services like those offered through the City of San Diego Day Center. Another critical component of the services offered through the Homelessness Response Center was the Housing Commission staffed system coordination team. The two system coordinators work to identify areas within the system that are creating micro or macro barriers to accessing permanent housing, and to collaborate with community partners to implement solutions. System coordinators work across many different entities like homelessness and housing service providers, government agencies, and Housing Commission's internal departments to support all entities in removing barriers to help clients access housing. The system coordinators have well-rounded knowledge across the multiple sectors that work with people experiencing homelessness to secure housing. The system coordination team also works directly with clients as situations arise and often helps identify where the system may not be functioning optimally. The system coordination team participates in approximately 10 case conferencing sessions in the city weekly, including shelters, outreach, and special population sessions such as veterans case conferencing. The system coordination team also provides support and direct assistance in permanent supportive housing project-based voucher lease-ups. This includes helping to locate clients, match to the development, assisting with obtaining required documents, and serving as a liaison between frontline programs, housing service providers, and other government entities. Some of the areas in which they continue to assist the community and partnering providers are offering expertise and technical assistance to improve the performance of the existing homelessness response system. They coordinate between frontline staff and housing providers to eliminate barriers and streamline access to housing for people experiencing homelessness. The system coordinators are able to track progress on a client's position in the housing process and liaise between the multiple stakeholders to ensure communication. The Housing Commission System Coordination Team continues to operate in conjunction with multiple providers across the system, including the Hub. Another element of system coordination is the Coordinated Shelter Intake Program, also known as CSIP, which the Housing Commission developed and operates. CSIP offers coordination between approved outreach partners and persons seeking shelter in the city. CSIP facilitates referrals into city-funded shelter programs 7 days a week. Through CSIP, partners refer individuals to a shelter using a coordinated model that allows for an individual to be matched to the shelter that best meets their specific needs and reduces the amount of time spent searching for an open bed. CSIP staff at the Housing Commission onboard new city shelter programs and new referring partners as needed. The Coordinated Shelter Intake Program was first piloted in 2020 and 2021 during Operation Shelter to Home, when city shelters operated out of the San Diego Convention Center as part of the city's response to the COVID-19 pandemic. In April 2021, CSIP formally launched as part of the Homelessness Response Center. As of July 1st, 2025, Housing Commission staff continue to operate the CSIP program. The table on the slide provides a summary of referrals and placements since CSIP launched in April 2021. Between its launch and June 30th, 2025, CSIP has facilitated 74,963 referrals to shelter and 18,721 successful placements. These figures are not deduplicated. In other words, a single person seeking shelter multiple times is counted each time. Even though CSIP now operates in conjunction with, but separate from, the Hub, shelter beds remain the most frequent service requested through the Hub, representing approximately 80% of all service requests. Plans to redevelop the site at 1401 Imperial Avenue to create affordable rental housing units required the Homelessness Response Center to relocate. Operations at the Imperial Avenue site ended June 30th, 2025. The city secured office space at the San Diego Central Library to continue operations of the Homelessness Response Center after June 30th. Although the city made every effort to preserve funding for homelessness programs in a difficult budget year, some reductions in fiscal year 2026 were necessary. The Housing Commission worked closely with the city's Homelessness Strategies and Solutions Department to identify thoughtful, coordinated reductions in expenditures for city-funded homelessness programs that the Housing Commission administers. In addition to the transition of the program's physical site location, the annual budget to operate the Homelessness Response Center for fiscal year 2026 was reduced. This required City and Housing Commission leadership to determine the most effective way to use the limited funding and still offer similar services to persons experiencing homelessness. The change in program location and budget reduction presented a unique opportunity to reimagine the program model. Next, we will explore the changes made to the program model as it transitioned from the Homelessness Response Center to the Hub. Josh Coyne from Downtown San Diego Partnership will share about the changes and the new model.
Great. Thank you, Megan. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. The Hub program model leverages existing client-focused citywide contracts, resources, and case management. This centralizes and streamlines the connection of clients to support in the homelessness response system. The Hub staffing structure includes 4 navigator roles on site and leverages over 13 staff from the Downtown San Diego Partnership's client-focused programs, such as their street-based intervention, the street-based intervention team, the team, client wellness programming, workforce readiness programming, and our very successful family reunification program. The Downtown San Diego Partnership has proudly partnered with 211 San Diego to receive referrals for the hub. 211 San Diego is assessing all callers and referring individuals to the hub program through 211's Community Information Exchange, or CIE, database. The hub's client service delivery expands the program's reach across the city by including a robust virtual model and referral system. Through the partnership with 211, the hub model is intended to offer convenience and access for individuals who may find it challenging or inconvenient to visit a brick and mortar location or may be located in another part of the city. Another way the hub strives to broaden its impact is by offering additional avenues for individuals experiencing homelessness to engage with services. Individuals may call 211 to receive a program referral through CIE. They can also email our team at theHub@improvedtsd.org or may schedule an in-person appointment using our online scheduling platform. Additionally, walk-in services are available at the hub's offices at the Central Library Monday through Saturday from 1 to 3 p.m. The hub's on-site navigators endeavor to connect the individual to the resource that best addresses the person's needs. Those resources include providing support with housing applications, searches, employment readiness, basic needs support, connection to the city's community care events, diversion financial assistance, and of course our street-based outreach teams. From the launch of the hub on July 16th, 2025 through November 30th, 2025, the hub received 1,128 referrals through CIE. It is our intention that utilizing CIE as the primary mechanism for referrals and leveraging existing street-based outreach teams should enable the program to increase services to persons experiencing homelessness in council districts outside of the downtown area. Using this approach, the hub program hopes to scale up services through the creation of new partnerships with established programs operating in the broader city of San Diego area. This shift is necessary to adapt the current needs with the homelessness crisis response system and maintain a critical access point to services. The hub offers diversion funds and services to identify safe and immediate alternative housing options. Diversion services include short-term financial assistance targeting barriers to housing, such as security deposits, first and last month's rent, and other costs deemed necessary for obtaining housing stability. Megan will now discuss our diversion model.
The hub's diversion assistance is modeled after the Housing Commission's homelessness shelter diversion program, which has been operating since July of 2017. As shown on this slide, diversion assistance is one of the most cost-effective resources within the city's homelessness response system. The Community Action Plan on Homelessness update presented to the City Council in May 2025 reported that more people are accessing the homelessness crisis response system as newly homeless or experiencing homelessness for the first time. Diversion financial assistance is a critical resource at a time when many households are losing their housing for the first time, and resources that can quickly resolve a household's homelessness are needed.
From July 16th to November 30th, 2025, the hub has seen 1,373 individuals in person at the hub's office during walk-in hours, as mentioned, from 1 to 3 each day, Monday through Saturday. We, of course, see those numbers fluctuate, but anticipate an increase in that number of individuals accessing in-person services during walk-in hours as our services continue to become well-known. Therefore, we agree and hope that maintaining a physical location to provide these services to individuals requiring direct engagement, as well as ensuring those without access to technology, are able to be served at the hub under our new service model, while remaining critical components of a sustained client-centered system. The Housing Commission and the Downtown San Diego Partnership will work closely on data collection to monitor trends and client needs to inform our services and program model update. That concludes our presentation, and we're here for any questions.
Thank you very much, and Casey, that was good preemptive. Quick question for you. I assume so. When I see unduplicated or undeduplicated numbers
in the referrals here. I assume that the same things we've been talking about with the data that you and Jonathan have been working on is going to trickle through this information in the future as well, right? In terms of being able to look at individuals versus referral numbers and.
I think so, because for CIE.
Yeah, so CAE is deduplicated, and we can, or has the ability to be a little bit clearer in that system to show that information. Yes.
Great.
Yeah.
And then compliments all around. I've watched this program evolve through multiple phases, and I think that there's not always been an enormous consensus around exactly what it should be doing and how it's been doing, but I think that the consistency over the past 5 years, I guess this has been going on, has been all around really good faith effort to try to make this work as well as possible with the lofty goal that was kind of set with the concept. And it seems to be working very well. And every time I see an update where there's changes and evolution being made to how the program is administered, I think that's like exactly the right track to be on, because the problem is constantly changing. So thank you for all the work that that you've done on that. Secondly, I really appreciate seeing the effort being made to serve people outside of the downtown area. One of the concerns that I've expressed about this in prior meetings, and not a deep concern about the program or its efficacy, but one of the concerns that I've had is, the trend that we have seen is a significant reduction in homelessness downtown without a corresponding reduction in the regional homelessness numbers. And so what that tells us is that people are locating in other areas. And so while we have the concentration of services and the hub being kind of the epitome of that in downtown, we've also seen the people who need those services moving further and further away from it. And I don't think that there's an easy answer to this problem, because one of the problems we could argue is that decades ago decisions were made to concentrate all these services downtown, and everyone, including and first and foremost the people who rely on those services, have been dealing with that ever since then. And I think that the other challenge is how do we reach people that are more dispersed in harder to reach areas. So however we get there, whether it be the efforts that that the hub and you all are working on to reach people outside of the downtown area, or I would say in a future world where things are not so dire, the reality is that we need access points like this in other parts of the city as well. So I would certainly never suggest that there's a better location or more, in terms of serving the most people than I think that the Downtown Central Library is great, but I do worry about this disconnect that happens with the resources being located in one area as the people that they're trying to serve are moving further and further away from that area. So anything that you all are doing to try to make these accessible to anyone experiencing homelessness, regardless of where they are in the city, I think is a step in the right direction. So thank you.
I'll just add one thing on that. I've always been a believer that the connection of services, that we were going to run into this problem where you have the hub downtown and you're moving people away from downtown, which is why for many years, I think the late Peter Seidler, the Tuesday Group, and a lot of us said we should have a mobile structure that can move around to the pockets and the populations. And I think that's now more evident, as Vice Chair Klempner is saying, than ever. It would have been great to have seen the city implement kind of a mobile structure that, even if it wasn't every month, but there was an opportunity to say, okay, here are the pockets. We're going to take services and information and insight to these pockets on a regular basis, throughout the month or throughout the year, and that didn't happen. So hopefully it's something that can be considered going forward.
No, thank you, Chair. I think with the support of the staff, I think leveraging the relationship with 211 and CIE has been critical. And I think what we see is less and less folks walking up into our physical brick and mortar. While that is still relevant and very important, right, for some folks, leveraging that relationship with 201 has been extremely helpful for us to catch folks in Ocean Beach, in Claremont, in Kearney Mesa. And what we end up doing is, frankly, just being the bridge to their caseworker, whether it's PATH or somewhere else, before they come back down, check in with us, right, at our brick and mortar. So I think that what we're doing here and what the staff is working on is exactly the right approach to address that concern that you and Vice Chair Klumpner have mentioned.
Thank you. Mr. Chrisman?
I agree with the chair that it shouldn't always be downtown, downtown, downtown. I think 2 hours once, 6 days a week, you're not having very many people. 1,300 people over 4 months, as many days as you're open. We obviously didn't have a lot of walk up. Whether they don't know where the central library is, the homeless people aren't near there, the word isn't on the street, but there's sure not a lot of folks. I really like Mitch's idea of making this a mobile facility that could go to neighborhoods on a regular basis, once a week, twice a week, a couple hours, would not be that costly. So I do think that's a good takeaway. Lisa's about to say something, so I'll shush.
I don't think my mic's on.
You're on.
No, oh, it is now. Okay. So, Josh, I know one of the things the hub does is connect with the city's care events, right, which are mobile and which bring resources across different areas of the community. So the hub is also connected as part of that. So that's another opportunity to reach folks.
Absolutely. Thank you. For the clarification, we have open walk-up hours from 1 to 3. We have staff in the library outside of those hours, and clients do tend to walk up either through library staff or on their own, a referral from our own internal caseworkers. So that is the 1 to 3 window is if we meet someone on C Street, they need a ID and we're kind of moving through, right, casework on the street. We'll say, hey, stop by the hub on the 5th floor at 1:30. Staff will be available to do an intake and we'll process you. So I just want to be clear that we do have staff available, but the 1 to 3 is largely when someone is certainly available. And that is, Lisa's correct, that is largely where we end up sending folks. In this model, leveraging those existing resources is to push them to places that are already funded, well-established, mobile, like the community care events.
Which is what I think they want. I mean,
absolutely.
5th floor, central library, that doesn't.
I just think that it's in. Lisa and Jeff will remember this. We have to evolve in how we approach this. And there was a time when the downtown central hub, but some of the thing that has been interesting in the articles that have been written of late is the spread has been ongoing. As the ordinance, the camping ordinance has taken effect, people are just moving other places. And we used to say this, that if you went down Sports Arena all the time, there was its own population on Sports Arena.
It was.
Mr. C, we used to talk about this about some of your properties out down the east, and so the mobile element. I think that when people get comfortable in a space, we learned this about the food bank. Food distributions. You tell people, hey, you couldn't have 1 or 2 distribution points. Food banks had to expand. And because people will go where they know that it's going to be, and they find the closest, most convenient piece. So much information and so many ways to touch and connect with someone who's struggling with this. It will occur if they know, hey, listen, there's a mobile resource that's going to be coming to this area that I'm usually in. It's just helpful. We have to evolve. We talked about this when before we were on social media. We were doing it the old-fashioned way, trying to connect with people who were struggling with being unsheltered. And I remember talking to Lisa and Jeff. You see too many people with smartphones. We should be on smartphones, not just faxing information, right? Yeah. I mean, who faxes, right? And so we had to think about and go.
Have staff out with faxing.
Okay, yeah. Holding up a fax. Here you go. This is the latest fax we put out. But I think that we,
had flip phones for a while.
Yeah. So we have to evolve in that, and that's I think
or
this
Blackberries.
is just yeah. So, all right.
Can I?
Go ahead.
Okay, I wasn't. Go ahead.
Sorry. What I don't want to lose, because it was a lot of information, is one of the things we've talked about here is like, well, nobody really understands how the coordinated entry system works, or like, how does our system work? I want to credit our staff and our partners that have come together with us on that the system works because of what we're talking about right now. We are unique as a community that we actually have staff that are dedicated to watching the system and going, we've got 3 folks in a program right here who referred to 27 days ago from the coordinated entry system, and that service provider hasn't picked them up. Or they've been enrolled in the program, but it's been 72 days and they're not housed yet. What's going on? That's what the coordinated system, like the system coordination team, that's what they do. Not only do they identify where there are blockages and barriers, where people may be like languishing in the system, Josh's team, our team, connect and case conference with those service providers to go, what's going on? What can we do? How do we resolve this? What's the barrier that's keeping them from getting housed? So rather than sort of service providers being on their own in the space and trying to figure it out, or even more challenging, our clients who are trying to get back, our community members who are trying to get back into housing, sort of trying to figure out their own way through the system. Not only do we do housing navigation where we work with an individual, right, and Josh's team and all of the outreach teams do this to help them figure out what their specific needs are, we have system coordinators that are watching the system every day and case conferencing, what'd you say, 10 case conferences a week across our city to figure out how we can move it faster. And I think that is highly unique and incredibly valuable. And they're not the ones placing the person in housing, so there's no credit in HMIS that, hey, the system coordination team placed 350 individuals, but they are resolving those issues so that those placements do happen as quickly as they can. And people who are running into challenges, whether it's a staff member who's trying to serve someone and the system's not working for them, or whether it's an individual that has lost their way and needs to be reconnected, that's what they do. And I think that is highly unique, and it's hard to put a value on how unusual that is and how important that is. So I think when we talk about, like, do we have a homeless crisis response system, between housing navigation, system coordination, and coordinated intake into shelter, the city of San Diego is, I think, unique compared to most places across the country, and that we really do have systems in place. It's not just good luck. I mean, there are systems in place to help people move from one place to another and to hopefully resolve their unsheltered homelessness and then eventually get them back into housing. And I just wanted to, I'm done with my bandbox now, but it's really unusual, and I'm just incredibly grateful not only to our team but to all of our partners who kind of let us bully our way in and say, hey, how can we help, right? Or what are you doing? Sometimes there's a little bit of that, right? But they have really welcomed us with open arms, and it has become a very collaborative process. And I just think it's very unique and important to know that when we say system, we actually do mean system, not just everything that's out there. Yeah.
Okay, so to finish, the $5,200 diversion number, is that the HUB program or is that the Housing Commission diversion numbers?
That's the Housing Commission diversion numbers.
So, Josh, have we seen the use of diversion through HUB, and if so, what kind of numbers?
I will let the Housing Commission team, I think we have the latest numbers for those diversion funds. Yes, the beautiful part of this coordination that we've seen is that we've been able to leverage more diversion funding by diverting other resources to help assist some of the routes that Lisa was just talking about and put more of that funding into diversion. So I don't have the latest numbers on how many folks we've housed with this particular contract with the money we've set aside. But yes, based on the coordination that we have from the number of different city contracts, we
we're about
do.
To get it.
I was waiting for it, yes.
And Casey has?
29 so far. So they have about $150,000 to spend, and they've served 29 folks so far. I think the through November 30th. So
29
households.
households,
Mhm.
and how much was the average assistance?
I can get you exact averages, but from my memory, it's about 2,500.
That makes more sense. Yeah, 5,200 seemed awfully high to me, so. I mean, that's a lot of first month's rent, last month's rent. It just seemed like,
There's also different levels of engagement depending on the level of need for the client.
yeah.
So right, I would also say the Housing Commission, the number that you see for all those different interventions are all in. So cost of staffing, operations, and everything is 5,000. When we say 2,000, that's just the portion going to the client.
This is not 5,200 going to the
Yes,
client.
yes, it's
This
not the
includes
all-in
staff.
cost. Yeah, it's not the all.
Oh,
We like to
big
share the
difference.
all-in cost so we know exactly, how much it cost.
That's a
inclusive.
different number. So the number we used in the program at the county was about 2,500. That was straight to.
Right, because when you leverage staff, it
There was
brings the
no
cost
staff
down.
cost at all in that.
Right,
Yeah, because you're leveraging existing programs.
right. That's the beauty of leveraging.
No, it was a separate program, but there was no cost for staff.
No, I guess what I'm saying is that money goes out as a separate program, but the service providers you're working with are leveraging staff that are being paid out of other programs.
100%. Yes,
Yes.
you're exactly correct. You're exactly correct.
Yes.
Okay, cool. We're making progress. But I will tell you, I just don't think, one man's opinion, fifth floor central library, I don't see that as a great. I'd rather take whatever we're spending for fifth floor central library, put it in mobile something, and even if we did it once a week, it'd be a better service. Because I just don't think people are, folks who are on the street are thinking about, oh, well, I'm going to go to the fifth floor of this beautiful library and I'm not dressed properly. And I just don't think that's customer friendly, shall we say. I think Mitch's idea is customer friendly, that if you had a trailer and it was parked in front of the library from 1 to 3, 5 days a week, 6 days, that'd be pretty cool. And then you go to Ocean Beach and Gurney Mesa. And so I think that's a really cool idea we should work on. Thank you.
Okay. Any further comments, questions?
I have one quick question here is, does this apply to, let's say, a homeless person that's looking to get an SRO? Would you have funding for them, a single room occupancy? Or is it just an apartment?
No, it would be any applicable housing option that the client would qualify for. We would assist that client with these funds to place them in that housing. Yeah, it's quite a frequent option, and we're very grateful for it.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Seeing no further comments and questions, that concludes this item 106. And I want to say thank you again, Megan and Josh. All right, so we will, the board will be meeting today in closed session. And before the board goes into the closed session, I'm going to ask General Counsel Chuck Christensen to announce the agenda. No speaker slips have been submitted for the closed session, but let's have Chuck go ahead and announce it, and we'll get everybody out of the room and get started.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The San Diego Housing Commission will now meet in closed session to discuss its closed session agenda, which is conference with legal counsel concerning anticipated litigation. That's the only matter to be discussed in closed session.
Okay, thank you very much.
And then everybody disappeared. Yeah, exactly.
We're going to take a break.
This is Mitch Mitchell, Chair of the San Diego Housing Commission Board of Commissioners. The board has concluded its closed session, is reconvening an open session at 11:04 a.m. General Counsel Chuck Christensen will now announce the report out of the closed session discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The San Diego Housing Commission met in closed session and by a vote of 5-0 with Commissioner Cushman absent, authorized the initiation of a litigation. That concludes the matters that were discussed in a closed session.
Thank you very much, Chuck. And with that, this concludes the board's meeting agenda for today, and I officially adjourn this meeting at 11:05 a.m. Thank you.